is up, everybody? How's everybody doing tonight? I want you all to welcome my guest, Travis, aka Mr. Wundrful.
Hey guys, thanks for having me, Aaron.
Oh well, wait. How do I what? I need to send out notifications with a 30-minute warning. Okay, I don't have any idea how to do that, but maybe I'll talk to you later about that, Matthew. I got no idea. I just work here. That's all I do. So, okay. Well, welcome to the show. We are going to get to a lot of stuff tonight. We're going to go over a lot of stuff. But first, before we go anywhere, do you know what a Venn diagram is?
I do. It's a bunch of circles, right? Like
Yeah.
stuff that overlaps and stuff. Yeah.
Okay. So, we're going to talk about the Myers-Briggs geek nerd dork version of a Venn diagram. So, if you have a high IQ and you're socially awkward, you're a dork. If you have a high IQ and you have an obsession, whatever it may be, you're a geek. If you're obsessed and socially awkward, you may be a stalker. And if you're all three, you might be a nerd. So, Travis, where do you think you fit in the geek nerd dork Myers-Briggs?
Yeah, I mean, I at first when you said IQ, I was shaking my head. Nope, that's not me. But I guess I could be considered somewhat intelligent at times. I guess it depends on the topic.
So there's a relativism to it.
Yeah, I definitely don't think I'm necessarily. I don't think I've ever been considered socially awkward. I think that I can kind of walk into a room and I can talk to anyone and I don't make folks feel uncomfortable. So I don't think that falls into my space. I've been very comfortable for the most part my whole life, just kind of being the guy in the room. I don't think I'm funny or anything, but I just, people can, feel comfortable and at ease. So I don't think the stalker falls under me, though that could be interesting. I definitely think obsession.
Well, you heard it here first, folks. Travis just admitted he may be a stalker.
No. I said it could be fun. I didn't say I did it. I said it could be fun.
But you said it would be fun, so that would definitely indicate that you would.
So I think with the obsession, and my wife would say that I get obsessed over things, and I think my project I'm currently working on is an example of that. It's been like, my main job, work, that, and then, family in between. But, and other than that, it's wrestling and whatever else was, my current obsession. So I think geek is probably the best alignment for me. I think that really covers me.
That's fair.
Maybe sliding into the nerd area.
It makes sense. No, it's but it's IQ mixed with obsession. It's perfect. I fit into the nerd because I'm slightly socially awkward. That's the autism. It is what it is. Can't change it. I can only mask it, and then that causes all sorts of other issues.
And so it explains why you were looking me up on LinkedIn and all my other social. No, I'm just kidding.
Stop. Yes, we're doing the stalking. That's what we do. Oh wait, no, we call that skip tracing. Never mind.
Okay.
Okay, so we're gonna go into what did you pick up this week? So, did you get anything good?
I did. I got some really cool stuff. Let me pull it out real quick. I got like this drawer over here my kids don't know about. It's where I store all my future gifts for them. So my oldest is a Marvel fan, and he collects all the legends and stuff. And I snagged this one. Do you mind a shameless plug for where I got this?
Not at all, because we will be having that shameless plug. Because if you got it from,
that's it. That's it.
Toys. There it is.
Yep, that's where it came from. So, snagged this from Hello Dope Toys this past week. Planning to give that to my son at some point. My oldest there, he's a huge Legends collector. I've got a ton of other stuff that I've just been building up in here. Let's see if I can put that away. But then for my own and my 12-year-old, we got. I don't want to say it offensively, so I'm just going to say we got a bunch of head packs. Because I can get really awkward and uncomfortable with this statement if you want me to. But I got these head packs from Helidope, and you can see I got AWOCs here, so it might be a little bit harder to see, but I got all 3 of those Spiro Toy AWOC Wave 2 head packs. I, of course, love for my plastic to breathe, so it did not survive the package much after it arrived. So I've got all those, and really I think my favorite one, and I think it's because it makes me think of Caesar from like the covers of like the Planet of the Apes. This one has got to be like my favorite. But my son has confiscated my bag of AWOCs where I keep them right now, because he took them off my shelf after he saw me displaying Wave 2, and he's like, I didn't know you got General Thane and all of that stuff. So I have not been able to do any head swaps, and I'm still waiting on some additional Wave 2 AWOCs for like the army builders. But those I'm not waiting on from Helidope. I unfortunately didn't order those from there. So if they were on Helidope, I'm sure they'd already be in my hands.
Yeah.
So I think that's
speaking of head packs.
Arrival. Yes, that one. I got that one too. Yep.
If I get just right, I don't have the reflection.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. Clear as day. Ooh, that's one of the what do they call them?
Ancients.
Not barbarians. Ancients, right? Yeah. Unfortunately, when I was going through and I jumped in, I like dived in like way off the cliff, and at the time, Helidope wasn't showing them.
Of the Ancients, but unfortunately, I guess there was a small error in the system, so I got a substitution.
Oh, you son of a gun! Oh.
So
I have 2 of those. I have 2 of those on order right now from one of those other stores.
One on order as well. Beyond this one, but I may do a giveaway on one of them eventually.
Nice.
That's my plan.
Awesome.
Anyway, so,
that is honestly like one of my favorites of the figures. Like I love Blight. I love that head that looks like Caesar from Planet of the Apes and stuff. But
there's so many new cool things that I get to play with now.
Yeah.
They're awesome. I'm enjoying it. It's something new to play with. Now, like you, I have to do my shameless plug for that because those were brought to you by helidopetoys.com.
That's awesome.
Now, these were not.
Some clearance.
We went clearance shopping this morning.
What was the percentage? What was the clearance off those on those? 50. I know it says it up. How much?
$12.49. 50. They're 50% off.
That's awesome. I'm gonna have to hit up Target tomorrow.
This one I paid full price for somewhere else because I needed it for shipping.
Okay.
But I'm only buying one of these a month, so I don't buy Legends that much. I'm only buying X-Men. Okay. And I finally got this, so I can get the arms for Cyborg.
Okay, cool. I still don't own a single McFarlane. I did almost own a McFarlane because I wanted to get that chair, the throne that they had with like a Lex Luthor. Yeah. And somebody was sharing it in one of the groups I'm on Instagram, and they said that it was like $8. I went on Amazon, and they wouldn't let me purchase it for $8. I had to buy it for $17, but somebody else had access to it for $8.
There's other places there's other places that have that for sale.
It was crazy. Like I asked him, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I'll order it for you."
There's also a throne with Black Adam.
Oh really?
The movie Black Adam. There's one of the characters in the Black Adam movie, and I got 3 of these. They come with 5 heads. It lights up. You know how much I paid for these each?
Were they at Ollie's?
No, this was at Entertainment Earth.
Okay.
$10.
$10?
$10
for all of them or each?
Each.
Okay. I don't have any Fortnite stuff. How do you like those?
I don't know. This is going with my G.I. Joes.
Do they scale pretty well?
Yeah.
Okay.
They scale really well.
Good.
So this is going to be probably some paint jobs, but I think I'm going to put them with my custom Iron Grenadiers Destro that I'm doing right now.
Nice.
So, but the head lights up.
That's cool.
I mean, you're not going to find a head lighting up for a $10 toy very often.
So does that have?
I couldn't pass it up.
So it's obviously got batteries, right? It's not like
it's got batteries.
Okay,
but it's got 5 different heads with different looks on each head. So I was like, you give me 5 heads, you're giving me a light up feature, and it's $10. Okay.
I mean that's a great price.
Sell me every time.
Yeah.
All right. So now that we've, dear gosh, okay, the chat has blown up. Holy good gravy. Good golly, Miss Molly. Okay. So we're going to go back and say hi to the chat. We have Cobweb with us. If you guys aren't checking out his reviews for the Masterverse and Origins figures, you're missing out. Got a cool display too. And speaking of Lawrence was hanging out in the chat. You were with him last night.
Yeah, it's been quite a while with Lawrence.
Mondays and Thursdays. Then we got, this person. I don't know who the hell he is. We got Thanos. Thanos Copter's in the house.
Hey, Thanos,
Nolan, the only person who's in more chats than me. Ted Darklaw is here. Ted from Hella Dope Toys. Thank you, sir, for coming in. Of course, we already saw Matthew was here because he was just like saying, I got to send out a 30-minute warning because,
I saw that.
I don't understand.
Hey, Matt.
All right, hang on. Going on. Figuratively speaking is here. Hey, John. How are you, sir? Realm of Toys is here. Thanks for coming. Emerald Night Photos. The other John.
I don't know that I know Emerald. I've seen his name around.
John's on our friend feed.
Okay. I don't know if I talked to him directly.
Probably not. But he's in there.
Yeah, good deal.
Got Miss Allison here. Hello. Got Eldor checking in, saying hey. Who else? I know I saw him. Where did he go? Where is he? There he is. Action is here. Hey, Ed, how you doing?
Hey, man.
All right, hang on. I know there's another one. All right, we got to get there. Hang on. There's James from Ratface 44 Reviews. Does a lot of G.I. Joe reviews, Valiverse reviews.
Nice
guy. And Gap After Dark has joined us. Hello. There he is. The other half of Hella Dope Toys. Aaron, the Black Knight.
Hey, Aaron.
Thanks for joining us, sir. Okay, now, hang on. See, this is a lot. Wow. And Adam has given me crap probably about my figures about did I need it? Ooh, for customs, yes. I'll justify it that way.
That was for the Fortnite, not for the
maybe
for the
probably. There's quip here for Europe. And Adam had to add the P. There's Sky Hall saying quick hi. Probably hitting the like for us. Don't forget to hit the like.
Oh yeah, make sure
you're watching this on replay. Please hit the like, subscribe, join me on Fridays. We can have fun. Absolutely. We can talk about play.
I love it.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you kind of a definition of what play is. And I think as adults, we get so wrapped up in the day-to-day things that we kind of forget the essential parts of finding that playfulness, that everyday gratefulness, joy, whatever we're going to call it. I had a conversation with someone who said that it's just consumer product. And I'm just like, well, yeah, it's stuff. It's all stuff.
Yeah. Everything we have is stuff.
It's just stuff, but it's not the stuff that matters. It's what it means to you.
Okay. Interesting.
So a play state is defined as a state of mind when one's absorbed in an activity that provides enjoyment and a suspension of a sense of time. When was the last time you played?
Man, that's like some deep thought stuff right there. When you start talking about points in time and stuff, that's interesting. So when's the last time I played? So I think I play all the time in that statement. It might not be with toys, but I try to sit back and enjoy everything I do, whether it be calculating numbers and doing my day-to-day job and analytical stuff, and I kind of try to suspend the state and enjoy everything I touch. But if we're talking more toys and getting down on the ground and playing, within the last week or so, my son pulled out my AWOCs and the He-Mans and a couple of the other figures that we have from miscellaneous lines, and we get down on the floor and we play, which is hard for me because I've never been someone that can. My 12-year-old likes to play together. I've never been someone who could play together because there's all this stuff up here playing around in my head, and I was my 12-year-old, he struggles with playing with others, but it's all he wants to do, but he wants to tell you how to do it. You have to do what he does, and oh, I'm going to do this, but then your guy has to do that. So like with him, it's always interesting and fun that way. For me, I struggle because I always was like a parallel player. When I was younger, my brother and I, we'd have our action figures and we'd have a draft, right? We were picking which ones one of us could use, and you went over there with your pile and I went over there with my pile. We might be in the same room, but we were totally playing apart. So, I would say that, in the last week or so, I sat down and played with my son as best as I could in a interactive way, because I do struggle with that.
Yeah, it does. It's harder for us as adults. We forget that there's an essential point to that. One, it's to shut off our brain from doing, whatever it is. Sometimes it's just important to have that, whatever it is, 5, 10, 20, 30 minutes that everything else melts away so that we can kind of recharge the batteries. So I think it's one of those things where we have to make a choice on spending that quality time for ourselves and our own mental health in that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Like kind of decompressing and just like on checking out of everything else and just focusing on what's in front of you.
Especially when we have things where we're just constantly in our head.
Oh yeah.
So if it, that wears you out eventually. So you kind of mentioned, the draft that you had with your siblings.
Yeah.
So what were your favorite ways to play when you were a child? What was your favorite ways?
So, and are we talking toys or are we talking outdoor stuff?
Just anything. It's how you played. While our focus here is, yes, this is toy therapy. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to be just toys. It can be, I played board games. I played video games. I went out, skateboarded. I went and, as long as you're not, illegally doing things like tagging people's cars, we will be all right.
I mean, I don't have a criminal record. I've actually, surprisingly been able to stay out of trouble my whole life. For the most part, my wife has kept me in line for the last 20 years. So, I've done pretty good there.
Yeah, I know the feeling on that one.
Exactly. So my favorite way to play. So, and this is going to sound a little repetitive, just because I was on the call last night talking, and I think Lawrence had pointed out, like, are you a wrestler, right? So it's cheesy, but wrestling was always my thing. And so when I was doing the draft on the ground and playing with our toys with my brother, it was likely because my parents told me to stop wrestling on the furniture with my brother. So we'd be like, oh, okay, let's go get the toys. And then, so we would play wrestle. And then, at that point we would get down on the floor and we'd pick our toys and we'd have our fake, my grandfather, he was pretty handy with wood and stuff, and taught me how to use some tools when I was little. Like he helped me build like a little wooden wrestling ring when I was little, so that I could stop breaking the plastic ones that I got from time to time. So then I would use all my action figures as wrestlers. So I'd play wrestling with wrestlers on the floor, and my brother would do the same thing. And then if I wasn't doing that, I was using the trampoline that I bought when I was like 12, 13 years old to, guess what? Not bounce around. It was to wrestle. So I'd go out on the trampoline. And this is before you had the nets around them and all that safety stuff. This was like, go out there.
Try not measures.
Exactly. Try not to get thrown 20 feet from the trampoline, but would do a lot of that and wrestle on the trampoline, and that's really kind of what I did. So that was my play. And if I wasn't doing those two things and it was a rainy, snowy day, I was playing like a Nintendo 64, and believe it or not, I was playing a wrestling game. I was probably playing with my brother, and we were probably playing like WCW versus the World, or World
So
Tour.
it's safe to say wrestling is important to Travis.
Nah, I hate that crap. No,
But it's
yes,
professional
yeah.
wrestling. It's not wrestling, right?
It's not amateur wrestling. It's professional wrestling for sure. That
Okay.
said, I did spend my oldest son's 19. He graduated a few years ago. I did spend 4 years sitting in the bleachers of a high school gymnasium, going to tournaments every weekend and watching my son do his amateur wrestling, which he was varsity all 4 years, and got to enjoy that. And he got into wrestling likely because I was like, Kurt Angle was a great wrestler. He wasn't around when I was a kid, so I didn't
Yeah.
do that. But as I got older, I was like, you should learn how to do this. And one day maybe he'll be. And he's not. He's into the martial arts. He's not into the fake stuff that I like.
Yeah.
So he watches it, but
it is what it is.
Yep.
Not everything can we pass on to our kids.
Exactly. They still like toys though, so I've kept that alive.
There you go. You got one win.
Exactly. A huge win right there. And I mean, I was into board games, Warhammer, things like that. I got into a little bit in my teenage years. I didn't have a lot of money, so it was hard to play that, but one of my good friends had it. So, we played at his house, and I grabbed a couple pieces from time to time, but yeah.
So, do you remember what that made you feel when you were playing? How did you feel? What were the ways that it made you feel?
How did it make me feel? I mean, I still get the same feeling sometimes when I'm downstairs with my son, and he's playing on his side of the ring and I'm playing on mine. It's it's escaping, it's enjoying, it's making up my own story, it's being creative, it's having the ability to tell myself the story of what these toys or characters are doing, and enjoying, and it's kind of like it's a release, right? It's relaxing. It's not stressful. It's just joyful.
So, are there any differences between how you played as a child and how you play now? Let's say what you're doing with your son or just by yourself, because we all play with our toys. Well, at least the ones of us that take them out of the box.
They all should breathe. They should all breathe.
If they stay in the box, you're not playing with your toys. I don't know what you're doing. You're storing them, I guess.
You're investing in the future of resale is what it sounds like to me.
You know what the thing is the reality is the only reason some of those 80s toys are worth anything is because they broke.
Yep, that's true.
So, yeah. I mean, there's so much of it out there. You can still get it, and it's still fairly reasonable. It's not what you would have paid for it in 1985, right? But it's not. There's very few things that are just completely out of the realm of possibility of getting.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah,
it would just take you a long time if you went like one figure a month
man.
for several years.
Yeah,
but it would give you something to do.
Yeah,
so and then you have to get all the variants and all the other stuff if you really want to be a collector, right? I'm like,
there's a lot of people that do it. Like I hear like
I can't do it.
Bobby Vala and Analog Toys and some of those other bigger YouTubers. They talk about doing it, and I'm impressed because as much as I loved what I played with when I was a kid, I see some of them. Like I was big into those Toy Biz figures in the early '90s that you can get from KB Toys for like 3 for like $7 or something. Yeah. But I tried buying those for my oldest at one point, and I just they're not the same. I'm like, these can go away. I don't know what it is, but I'm not into what I used to play with as a kid. Like I like more articulation, the detail, the art on the newer stuff. Technology's just come so far. Like as a fan, one having, we were just talking about this before we came in here, right? Like the internet, right? It's crazy. It's always in our hand. So like, we have that ability to, find folks like you, myself, and everybody that's in this chat watching this right now, like a bunch of people that are just like us and like our toys and collect stuff. So, you're not some weird person anymore, right? We still fall in that diagram. We might be weird.
Really weird. I think we just thought we were weird.
Well, that's what it is, right?
We had that social anxiety of like, if somebody is, going to look at me weird because I'm doing this because they think it's a child's thing. But at the end of the day, I would still rather be the person that's engaging with my inner child on a day-to-day basis.
100%.
Than the person 100%. Who has a stick so far up their ass they can taste it.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you. And Aaron, you said it best, right? Like in that sense, right? So,
Yeah,
but for a long time, I think there was a part of me. I mean, I won't say a long time, but as a kid, it really didn't last long for me. I'm gonna be honest, it didn't last long. There was those years where I wanted girlfriends, and I eventually met my wife, and I told the story before, but if they were if I still had them, but if I didn't remember to put them away in a closet or store them away somewhere, oh, my brother left them in the room, right? Like those weren't mine. My brother came in and left those out. Man, come get those. So like he took the fall. He's a fall guy for me. Um, but like I never really stopped, but there was a point in time where I didn't go actively purchasing and getting new stuff. Um, but it definitely wasn't something like I was like, oh, let me tell everybody on a YouTube channel that I'm into this stuff. But like now I've been like, you know what? I don't care. Like I love these toys. I love it. It's art. To me, it's no different than somebody who collects coins. I used to compare my basement, which I had this massive table where I built an entire wrestling arena with a ramp and everything for my action figures. I built it for my kids to play with, and they loved it. Like, thought it was the coolest thing, right? Like, they have that. And me, I know going, man, if my dad had built that for me when I was, 8 years old, that would have been like the coolest thing in the world. So, like, I didn't care. I didn't care what people thought. I was having a blast with it and enjoying the hell out of it, to be honest. So, I just, have stopped caring, but we're in an age where we can find others like us, we can show up
yeah.
like it's a meeting and we can explain our plastic addiction and and feel comfortable with it.
Welcome
So
to
it's
Plastics Anonymous.
exactly,
My name is
exactly.
Travis, and
Yeah.
I have a plastic problem.
Oh, I have a Hella Dope is my supplier, and if you need to know where they are, I can give you Ted's details because we can take I can point him down if it gets me out of trouble.
So
Yes,
you,
narc.
we just kind of talked about how you played now versus when you were a child. What were your childhood toy lines? What were those?
Yeah, I kind of touched on it, right? Is the those X-Men, Marvel figures that they had in the 90s that you get from KB. Those were a lot of them. I definitely had some of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I didn't have a lot of them. I had a few of them. Um, I just saw Ted's post, the Hella Dopers for a reason. Sorry, that one's got me laughing. Um, yes, that aligns there, Ted, for sure. Um, with that, one of my neighbors up the street had like a 5 drawer big dresser, and every drawer was packed full of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, all the variants, accessories, all that stuff. So I didn't have a lot of them because I could go to his house and play with them. But I had some, and I had like Toxic Avengers. I remember those. And Unboxing Art asked me a couple weeks ago when I was on like
nothing like those late 80s, early 90s toy lines based on rated R movies. I'm just
right.
like, really?
Well, actually, so that's like I always talk about like
They
my
made
biggest
the fluffy cartoon, and I'm just like, no, that's one of those shows.
RoboCop.
Crusaders, like, really? Did you ever watch the movie?
Exactly. I never saw the movie to this day. I've never seen the movie. I just remember the cartoon.
Oh yeah, no, it's bad, but it's a tragically bad film that you probably should watch at least once, just so you can say you've seen it.
Yeah, I'll have to get around to it. But yeah, RoboCop, I that was one that was the same thing, and that's actually, besides wrestling, it's actually one of my most memorable experiences because it was actually like to this day it still makes me angry. I got like for my birthday, and I don't know how old I was. I'd have to go figure out when it came out, but I got like, and my parents didn't have a lot of money, but they bought me, and for my birthday, I got like every one of that wave or series of RoboCop toys with a car. I think there was a car back then too, so I had like the whole thing, and I must have been like 5 because I remember it was kindergarten. Bringing it in for show and tell after my birthday, but I brought it in on the wrong day, so my teacher made me go put it out in my bag, and I went and put it out in my bag. At the end of the day, I went out and got my book bag, and it was gone. All my stuff was gone. Somebody saw me put it in my bag and stole and jacked my stuff from me. So, like, to this day, it's still like one of the most tragic experiences of my life.
Well, yeah, obviously. Yeah. So, I mean, that, when we lose our toys as kids, sometimes we lose them because we're just not paying attention, but sometimes we lose them because somebody 5-finger discounts.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's one of those things that we take the chance when we bring our stuff to someone else.
Exactly.
So, are there any of those toys that you would still want to have, or that you would actually actively seek out now?
I don't know that I would. I don't know that there's anything I would, because like I said a minute ago, I kind of touched on it, was that, when it came to those older toys that I had when I was a kid, I did get some of them from my youngest. I went on eBay and I started snagging some of those old Toy Biz figures, but I felt like, with regards to them, I felt like they lacked so much detail and articulation that stuff now has. It was hard to like get behind them. What I would say is I would love to see some of these companies like Jada or Vala or even Savage, the Spiro, one of these other companies grab some of these IPs that are out there that like the Toxic Avengers and redo that. Like one of the things I think looks really cool, and I don't know the brand. They might be NECA. They did the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle stuff, which looks a lot like that early '90s Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I think it's NECA. I don't know. There's so many people that have the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but it's at like Target, and they're in like these 2-packs that are like about this wide. Yeah. So I didn't get any of them because I saw them one time. I was like, oh, I passed it. And then I started seeing more and more, and I was like, man, that's really cool. They got a lot of cool stuff that reminds me when I was a kid. So I would definitely say that I've done the hunt out for the old stuff when I was a kid. I don't know that I would want to gather that anymore. I think what I'd prefer to see is re-releases in current day technology of some of those legacy IPs that I loved so much. I'd love to see Pirates of the Dark Water. It was a cartoon that ended way too soon for me when I was a kid that I always loved, and never got toys from it myself. But that and like Toxic Avengers, things like that would be really cool to see in present day tech.
So let's kind of switch from childhood to currently. So what are your current toy lines that you're getting?
Yeah, so the current toy lines, it really, I've always like going back wrestling. I got really into the Mattel stuff. I really enjoyed their scale, the way they would do stuff. Started basics, then purged all my basics and went to elites, and have slowly been purging my elites for my ultimates. Still hanging on to a bunch of the elites so my youngest son can play with those, and he and I can use those. And that's really where my lines ended, up until I saw the classified figures in the store, which I was like, man, 6-inch scale, detail like I like, a ton of articulation. So I definitely got into that, which then let me down, as we talked, right? There's those rabbit holes you get into. It led me down the rabbit hole of finding Valaverse and the Action Force, and I got like, I think I have every one of the Action Force figures that's come out except for like Bloody Pandora, some of the variants, right? I've tried to get most everything I can there. I think I have just about everything minus I typically don't get variants of figures. I have most of the classifieds. I then, again, going down that rabbit hole, start following some of the, Valaverse stuff and a lot of the videos online, and finding out about things like AWalk. I got all, I showed you the heads there. So I have everything from all of those that have come out, and I'm still getting some of the Wave 2 stuff shipped to me. And then one of the big ones that I went way in over my head on was the Savage Crucible, which I'm looking forward to. So that's one of the next big ones. And I've got other rooms in the house that my kids collect in, and they've got their Marvel Legends. So I have access to a bunch of those, Power Ranger Lightning. And then, my youngest has gotten into some of the Dragon Ball Z stuff, and, some Black Series.
So it's kind of sounding like, I would ask the question, do you prefer the established franchises, or does it really matter, or does it more of the aesthetics of the figures that draw you to it, or is it, something it's a legacy property that you have some emotional attachment to it? So which of those kind of things draws you to a figure?
I think Sergeant Slaughter drew me to G.I. Joe, right? Because of wrestling, right? That carryover from wrestling. So I got into the G.I. Joe when I was younger. So that definitely stood out. But I love the military look and kind of that whole thing. I was never like, I couldn't tell you most of the characters' names in G.I. Joes because I didn't like keep watching it as I got older. So I know them now, right? As I've re-gotten into it and like the classified stuff, I know a lot more about it. So I don't think I'm tied to any legacy stories. I'd say like things like the Pirates of the Dark Water, like that one I remember. And like that one, like if that came out, I'd heavily get into that. But for the most part, outside of wrestling, it's really like if it looks cool and I can create a story with it in my head and it works together, I'll get it. So like I even have He-Man, like some of the Masterverse stuff, especially when it's on clearance. I try to snag that stuff because it like parlays in really well with my AWalks, and it looks like it should scale pretty well with the Savage Crucible line too. To kind of just like they can all intermingle. So I like that. I'm hesitant to get a lot of the really like, I don't want to say weird, but a lot of the fantasy Masterverse stuff,
Yeah.
like where it's got like all the different armors and stuff, because that doesn't necessarily like fall into what I'm looking for. But if it's got a decent story, like I love the Spiro Toys story for AWOC. And I got the comic net graphic novel for Savage Crucible. I've read about half of it. I really enjoy that. I love the stories they tell. So, you know, I'm into like the new stuff. Not tied to anything legacy. Like, you know, if it works, it works is kind of my approach.
So it's kind of if it has something that's engaging with you, so it has something media wise that kind of catches you, not just your head canning. It seems like is what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm not stuck to like a canon and it has to be this. Like,
Okay.
you know, it doesn't work. And not for me, at least. That's not how I see it.
So what about this? You talked about the community that we have, and we've
Yeah.
put all these people together. We all kind of talk about these toys that lead us down these rabbit holes that we've talked about. Does that community of collectors or interest by others have any sway over how your interests go in a given line, or say even do you think that that would affect a line's longevity?
So for me personally, I don't think anybody swayed me except for, I mean, there's one guy out there, and I'll throw his name out there, Jeremy J. He had me go so hard into AWOC and Savage Crucible. I blame him as a horrible person. He's like your friend who's like, just try it one time, man, it'll be great.
Yeah,
You know, like no,
Jeremy is your enabler, is what you're saying.
yeah, no, he's awesome. I kid, right? But you know, through talking to him, like I was on the edge. Like I saw AWOC after the Kickstarter went.
Yeah.
So I didn't get into it early enough. And then they were doing, I think, like some secondary Kickstarter type stuff, like you know, other filler things. And
Kids.
yeah, the backer kits and stuff. And I actually had it all in my cart on a train down to New York City, and then I just totally forgot to buy it. And then I saw the Savage Crucible stuff come out where people were talking about it. So definitely some influencers like talking about what's out there. But I wouldn't say like, oh, them telling me, oh, this is it. But when I saw the different lines, and I'm like, and then I think D-Mazing maybe had a video where he showed all of that stuff, and you know, kind of showed the comparison scales. And I may be saying the wrong YouTuber, so my apologies if that's the case. But somebody did a review, and they did like some size comparisons.
Mm-hmm.
And I like things to look like they're supposed to be together. Like you're never gonna see me pull out like a, you know, retro GI Joe O-ring and have him going to bat, you know, against an AWOC character. It's just, it doesn't work in my head for me. I can't play that way. I'm never gonna take a Lego guy out and have him fight, you know, the Big Show action figure. It just doesn't work. So I need it to have some proportional access, you know.
Well, is that as an adult or was that as a kid? Because did you play that way as a kid too?
My whole life. Like
so it always, these are this is that, none never. So your wrestling figures never met with your, you know, let's say, you know, He-Man figures, nothing.
No. So when I was, it's funny. Lawrence said you'd ask this, right? And
it's structured. You have this thing where it's, your play was more was structured. Then it was structured around this particular headcanon, this particular story with these particular figures, and that's fine. That's how a lot of
kind of, right? Like it wasn't so much the headcanon about it as much as if it didn't size to me, right? Like, so the headcanon wasn't relevant because I would take because we didn't have a lot of money, and the WWE figures, the bone crunching action ones that came out in the early 90s, they were like expensive, like, and when I say expensive, like $10 a pop or something.
Yeah.
But I could get 3 Marvel Toy Bizes for like $6 or $7. Well, I would get those Marvel Toy Biz figures, and they became my wrestlers. I wouldn't, and if I happened to get a $10 Shawn Michaels figure, I didn't use him with the X-Men or Marvel figures. He went off to the side and only played with wrestlers, but I would use my X-Men or Marvel figures as my wrestlers, and I would just pretend they were someone else. So the headcanon didn't matter. It just mattered that they played well together in size, if that makes sense.
Okay, so they just had to they had to work for you for that size.
Exactly. And nowadays, it's still in some ways that same approach, except for like Classified, right? And Valaverse. They're in size scale. I can intermingle them, no issues there. They, you know, I'm crossing a huge gap for myself here. with the AWOCs and the G.I. Joes, I can use them together because to me, I'm like, these are from a different planet. They're larger. It works. So I'm growing. I'm maturing in how I can allow these guys to interact with one another. I don't know that I'll ever display them on a stand next to each other, but if I was toying around with them, they could. But, I do keep them separate when I store them and stuff. All my Joes and Valaverse are all kind of together. All of my, AWOCs and He-Man, because they're in that more 7-inch scale kind of scale, they all go together. The Savage Crucible, they'll go with those guys. If that makes sense.
Well, no, I mean, even thematically, you're going to get those fantasy figures that go with fantasy figures, and so it's understandable.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, even in my displays, there's fantasy figures standing right next to my Joes. So,
oh man,
because in the cartoon, let's be realistic. There, as a kid in the cartoon, there was lots of fantasy elements.
Oh yeah, sci-fi stuff going on. Yeah.
I mean, they had traveling to a different dimension.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, they had fatal fluffies. So. And of course, Matthew will probably chime in, or Lawrence will chime in momentarily about the only canon that matters is the comics. Actually,
which comic is it? Is it this one?
Yeah, that one's okay. I like that version.
Yeah, I just picked it up because there was those other guys were running a show and doing that for a little while. It's on pause right now, I think, but I figured I'd read along because I've never dived into the canon of the Joes.
IDW stuff.
Yeah, I've never really dived into the comics on G.I. Joes. If I have any G.I. Joe knowledge, it's really based on what I saw on the television show and the awesome movies that came out in the last 20 years.
There it is.
Not canon.
You know it was coming.
That's
there
funny.
It is. And Matthew says he doesn't say that. Okay, well. So it must just be Lawrence then. It's so picky tacky about it. But
was there a comic?
Stuff. Was there a comic?
I'm a big comic book guy because my dad, he grew up in the 60s. So I was handed a lot of Captain America and Falcon and Spider-Mans from the 60s and 70s. I have tons of them. That I still own today. And when I was in my teens and early, preteens, I would read, on the top of my bunk bed. I remember busting out my old, Captain America comics and reading through those. So like that was my comic book venture and where I exposed. I didn't get a lot into the Joe comics because my dad didn't have. I read what I had. I didn't buy anything new. I just read what was given to me.
Well, and I think that speaks to something. I think sometimes we now get stuff all the time, right?
Oh yeah. Immediate gratification.
But we're fear we're going to miss out. But sometimes we have to take a moment to appreciate what we have.
Oh, yeah.
And sometimes we just take a step back and we play with our toys that we have. And we don't go out and buy new ones. And, we don't pre-order till, the end of time. So what we're going to do now, since we've kind of come back to your collection for what you're currently doing, we're going to actually go through and we're going to share some of your collection.
Oh no, you're going to judge me?
Judge is a harsh word.
Criticize.
We're going to have a conversation just in general about your collection. And we're going to start with your, obviously, Power Rangers.
And in full transparency, this isn't all of my collections. This is what I would consider my household's collections of action figures, because some of them are ones that my sons collect, and it's not all of them. We have buckets of them.
Yeah. Well, I kind of figured that when you sent me like 7 pictures. I'm like, that's not all of his collection. I know.
No,
I'm not that naive to assume
that's the collection the wife knows about.
So the Power Rangers, obviously, you've kind of got a mix of different versions, and you've got the Shredder crossover one here. I'm assuming that's the turtle one right there.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's Leonardo. That's Donatello, I think, back there.
Yeah. And then you got a couple White Rangers and Darklon and SPD one. Is that right?
Oh, dude, I don't know anything but the Mighty Morphin Power
Or
Rangers. My
Zed. Yeah,
Zed.
some of them I know, some of them I don't. So I'm just taking a
Yeah.
wild shot in the dark
It's
there.
totally my son here. He loves the different Power Rangers, and I mean, I like them, because it all ties back to the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers to me.
Yeah.
So like it's cool to me to see these and remember what I had when I was a kid and having some of those when I was younger. So yeah.
And here is some legends. It's an interesting. I'm assuming this was just kind of put together. It wasn't like
Yep.
this is how you have them set up, right?
No, this is Travis got to get pictures over to folks,
Okay.
and he
So
needs to get some promos done
here. There's a He Who Remains right next to a Craven the Hunter, right next to a Blue Marvel with Ned.
It's from that Spider-Man one where like he opened up the portal and they all just kind of fell out. That's okay. What the theme is. Yeah. It's kind of what he had on, at the top of his thing, and the ones that I wanted to just kind of throw up there.
Now, this is obviously your Ultimates, right?
Yeah, this is my Ultimate collection. I do not have a lot because I was the guy who collected a bunch of Jakks early on when they were the Jakks brand figures, and then I was fine with those. But then Rey Mysterio was the same size as the Big Show, and I saw the Mattel came out, and I was frustrated at first, but then I was like, oh, they're way better. And the details better, and it's scale, and this is something I can get behind. So then I dumped all my Jakks and went to the basics, and then I went to the elites because I was being too cheap when I bought all the basics, and I wanted the articulation, and I thought I was done with just sticking with the elites, and then they announced the ultimates, and I'm like, nope, I'm not going to do it. And then I started doing it because I'm like,
how it works,
they're
right?
so good. Yeah,
that's one of those things that kills. This is one of those things that people that collect for value, what they don't understand is somebody's going to come along and create a better figure, and it's going to eradicate the value of that other one.
Yeah. And then that's what I do. And that's what I do. Like, that's one thing I've learned to do is the variants, because I used to have like every variant, like every elite figure that could come out, I would grab them, like all 6 in the wave. And I got to a point where I had so many that at the beginning of COVID, I actually was like, I got to consolidate some of this. So I actually started unloading. I went through with my sons and I looked at them and I'm like, here's all our duplicates. Which one do we like the most? We're keeping one of each. I still have 4 Rey Mysterios because my son loves his masked wrestlers, but for the most part, I was able to.
It's not the same mask on him each time, right?
Right. No.
So no, then they could be 4 different luchadors. You're good.
That's yeah. For him, that works.
For him, that works. That's all that matters.
Yeah. But I was able to move away from, I think I had like 4 or 5 Shawn Michaels, and I was able to move on from a bunch of those.
Yeah, that's one of those tricky things that we get modern days is we get a lot of the same character over and over and over. Yeah. And sometimes it's just, like with Classified, we have 9 Snake Eyes right now.
Oh yeah. It's like John Cena in the WWE ones. There's a John Cena in every other pack.
Snake Eyes is not my thing. Wasn't my thing back when the comics, it's one of the things that if there was a Snake Eyes episode or issue, I was out. It just didn't make any sense.
Yeah.
I liked him as a commando. I did not like him as a ninja, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Leave him G1 commando. Get it all the time.
Yeah.
So, all right. And this is your kind of Classified Valaverse kind of little hodgepodge. There's some obviously head swapping going on.
Yep.
Some customization.
Very minimal. I have that dirt cheap Eternals clearance Target head on there. I think I've got the whole figure for
what's this $3. Is this Old Man Logan head?
That's Old Man Logan. I think he's trying to look down at the scope the way I have him positioned.
Okay.
And then
I was trying to figure out what the head was, but it's a picture, so sometimes you can't see.
And then you have.
I mean, that's kind of the common thing is where we do we pop a head off and put it. Sometimes that's the best way to make a figure new is change the head.
Yeah, that's why I love the the Valaverse and the classifieds, because of the fact that, you know, with so many of them, you can do army building out of a lot of the bodies and the way they are. You know, it's easy to me. It's easier with the Valaverse, just the way the construction of the figures are. You know, the thing is that heads are limited, right? That's when I actually started getting into 3D printing, was because I wanted to be able to, you know, print some heads that were out there that I was seeing folks do. And that's why I switched into the resin printing from the FDM stuff. So, because I was running out of clearanced, you know, head sculpts from, you know, Target and stuff, because there's only so many times you can put the Eternal head on. And, you know, I've done the clay and I've done the, you know, sculpting and stuff, and I'm not good at it, and I can't paint eyes for the life of me. So
yeah, it's I like that there's so many different pieces and bits and bobs, and they all kind of mix together. If you really pop them apart, you can get them all to mix.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I pretty much use my Valas for fodder now, so what's left of what I have on display is usually stuff that is just fodder waiting to be popped open and taken apart.
Yeah, I mean, I love some of their like mainline
figures.
Don't
like the upper bodies.
Okay.
Don't like the way the torsos look when you take them off, because they're just, it's a little bit weird.
Okay.
If you like, so, but you, if you take the armor off, it looks weird.
Okay. Okay.
The body armor.
I get what you're saying.
One of those things that, you know, I'll have to eventually just print my own body armor, which means I'll probably have to get a resin printer.
We can talk. I can tell you some stuff.
So it's one of those things, you know, it happens.
Yeah.
Now here's your AWOCs.
Yep.
That was 1 and 2.
Yeah, that's a bunch of the stuff I got from Helidope. There was I think I got everything but Pale from Helidope a week or so ago when they got their shipment in. I got the 4 in the back, and then I threw Pale in there because I wanted to get a nice depth on the figures there. And thank you, Cobb, for the stands comment there. Yeah, that's definitely some Hexastack stands there. And it, just to point out, Thane fits on that stand, a single stand by himself.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very heavy. So it's one of those things that I'm definitely gonna have to get something for him.
Yeah. Yeah. The nice thing is that
he's on my top shelf, like literally at the top of my bookcase on one of them, and I'm just waiting for the head dive of the heavy figure to take someone out.
He's the type of guy that you're going to want to use Hexastack. You're going to want to put him kind of in the center of a multi-spread kind of like stand set, where because the nice thing about the Hexastack is they got magnets, which add weight, and they're resin, so they're a little bit heavier in the weight. And if you put them on a 3-inch stand, you could put a weighted magnet inside that storage case that has too, just to give it a little extra to make sure your guy doesn't go tumbling.
Yeah. All right.
It's definitely more than a stand.
All right. Here's the bucket of trouble.
Yes.
That's what I like to call it. It's the storage problem for every collector out there. When we get to that point that we don't have enough shelf space, where do our figures go?
In piles.
Storage. Into storage.
Those infamous Ziploc bags for your accessories.
You know, yep. You know, we should all just invest in Ziploc.
I was going to say that. I taught my son at a young age that, you know, you invest in a case of Ziploc bags, because anytime you get an action figure, you need to pile your extra parts in there.
We just need to buy stock in Ziploc, and we'll be all set.
Yeah.
Because that's pretty much what we use.
Yep.
All right. So you kind of mentioned about your Hexastacks. Everything that we saw that was displayed was on your Hexastacks.
Yep.
So we kind of have your little slides that you sent me. So we're going to go through them.
Oh, cool.
I'm sure that you went through them last night with Lawrence, but you know what? Maybe not everybody.
No, we didn't go through those ones with Lawrence. We spoke to what's on those, but we didn't actually go through them. So yeah, okay. Definitely.
So
I know others may have seen them.
And you know, you can just, you know, tell me when we need to move forward to the next slide.
Awesome. Yeah. So, one of the things, right now the taglines, it's a wonderful way to display, but there's a secondary tagline there for these Hexastack. It's not just a stand, and that's something that Lawrence has kind of coined for me. Is it's not just a stand; it's more, right? So, there's 4 different stand types. The first one you see here is the half-inch stand, and there's other stands out there, right? But again, this isn't just a stand. It's so much more. There's features in here which include magnets, which allow you to connect each one of the units together, and allows you to extend this display structure in a way that can go as far deep or as far wide as you want, or your shelves allow, right? So in the detofs that folks have most of their things on, or like the bookshelves like I have, typically, you have anywhere between, 13 to 15, maybe 16 inches depth. And then, depending on the stand, your display unit, you may have, 12 to 16 inches high, or it might be, infinitively, adjustable within the space. So, it's open to the imagination and how you want to display it. And for me, I went with these 4 different sizes: the half-inch, 1-inch, 2, and 3-inch, because I wanted to. The one thing I hate is when you do display things, everything's eye level, and with these varying heights, you really can customize to your heart's desire. Is I keep throwing around the term, it's limitless, right? It's limitless in how you display it, and additionally, it's limitless in what we can build out within Hexastack because of so many features that I've done to allow it to really be modular in any number of ways. If you want to go ahead to the next slide, so that's the half-inch. This is the 1-inch, again, very similar. Everything is built in a way that's it's pretty, with the exception of the 3-inch stand. They're all pretty consistently the same, with the exception of the height. They all have that rivet around the top where you can see it's carved out, and that's deliberate and intentional. And what that is to do is allow them to interlock within each other. And you can see there's a circular hole on the top. The circular hole is a magnet placement. So there's a magnet there. And then there's one on the underside also, so that when you're interlocking them, the shapes connect, not as, it doesn't click in the same way a Lego does, but similar to, way blocks would interlock. It's not going to lock in place, permanently, but it has the magnets in there to help, stabilize and keep it together, with also the beveled edges, because the underside's beveled out too. The next thing here is the 2-inch stand, and you can also see one of the foot pegs. What we have here is, the foot peg, it's this hexagonal shape, sticking with the same kind of shape of the entire unit and the whole modular system. That foot peg piece there, that one has a magnet on the underside. And what you'll notice is there's, hexagonal shapes, 2 of them on the top of the stands, on all of the stands. Those have a magnet recessed underneath those, so that your foot pegs are removable, but also connect through magnets, through a strong enough magnet that they'll stay in place for you. And what this does is really where Hexastack, differentiates itself from all of these other stands that are out there, because you're not limited to any singular, foot peg or one type of action figure. Based on the community and what folks are looking for, these stands now, possess, the ability to feature any type of foot peg. And we'll be offering that through the Kickstarter. And I say any, we will have some that we offer right now based on what we're targeting for the market. But if there's outpour of folks that want something that hadn't been considered, we definitely have that opportunity to design that and put that out for the consumer in the long term. And all you're doing is swapping out what peg is in there today with the new one for a new figure that comes out, or one that wasn't on the radar of me at the time. Then the other item here is the 3-inch stand. And this is the only one that has this feature, just because it's got a lot of space there. And this goes down to, this really came as a situation where I was trying to help cut the cost of producing these to keep the price as low as I can for the consumer. And that's really my goal here. Is I recognize, these are, they're not just stands, they're a system that you can build upon, but that they're an accessory line to your action figures. And I don't want to make them, more, or, cost you so much more that you could pick out figures. instead of the stands to display them on. So I'm trying to keep the price down. I was like, how can I, lower the cost of material? And I thought, well, if I hollow this unit out, I can do that. But I'm like, well, just hollowing it out just makes it lighter and less, resins being used. But I was like, but if I hollow it out and put a drawer to what originally was conceptually built to store the additional pegs you may have for your foot pegs, became a container that can actually store accessories for your action figures. So hopefully you can, move away from having to store a ton of, plastic Ziploc bags, and you won't have to take up stock in Ziploc, but you can take up stock in Hexastack at some point, right? And store your action figure accessories in those drawers. And just to give perspective on how much can be stored in there, I have a Super 7 Matt Cardona figure that I've used, and it's got multiple heads, and it's got multiple accessory hands, some dollar bills, and a number of other things, and they all can fit in there. I was saying last night, I think, to Lawrence that I have like 9 heads here from AWOX, and maybe outside of the one that looks like Pale's head, I think I could fit all of those heads in a singular 3-inch stand container, or very close to all of those heads that I have here today. So it's a large amount of space for what it is, and should give you an opportunity to keep your stuff close to its, figure without, misplacing it in a drawer somewhere. So this, I think, is a huge piece that folks are going to find benefit in. I was talking a ton there, Aaron. I don't know if you have any questions.
You've got the heights. What are the widths? What are we talking about width-wise?
Yep. So every stand follows the same dimensions. So if I say east to west, I'm talking, from the left to right. And I'm talking about the, like where the foot pegs are. Those would be your east to west. That's 3 inches, I believe. I always forget. Let me give me 1 second. I'll measure it right here in front of myself so that I can give you the accurate statement. So so from left to right, it is 3 inches wide. Okay. And then from front corner to rear corner, so where that magnet is to the back, is just over 3 inches, like 3 and a hair. Okay. So it's about 3 by 3 for
so easy. Roughly 3 inches.
Yep.
Diameter wise.
Exactly. So 3 inches by 3 inches, and what that does is and one thing you have to consider is like, okay, well, 3 inches allows me to go, on a shelf, let's say I have a 15-inch shelf. Well, that means I can, right from edge to edge, I can only put 5 rows deep. Well, yeah, if I was going, sharp corner to sharp corner, but I'm not, because the hexagonal shape shores up a little bit and it staggers the rows, right? So not only does it adjust the height, but it staggers the depth too. So you can actually fit quite a few rows comfortably on a 14 to 15-inch shelf, at minimum 5 rows, which, if you think about, that's pretty deep there, to be honest. And then we have some alternative stands here.
Was the textured and different stand. Now, will these have foot peg holes?
Yeah, so the visuals here don't show the peg holes in them because this was a quick mock-up to get these out here and get them visual. The Kickstarter will have the updated imagery for them, but they will also contain the same functionality that all the half-inch stands have, which is the peg holes. Yep. Okay. Yep, universally the same. The only difference is you get a texture on top, and one of the benefits for those that aren't familiar with resin 3D printing, these printers, the resin takes acrylic paint very easily. And if you're looking to paint some of these and do some customizing, maybe you're one of those folks that loves like the Masterverse and you want to use the stone one, and you want it to be maybe yellow and purple for the different Masterverse colors that folks like to kind of go with. Mm-hmm. And you want to paint the stones a different color, you can pick it up in the gray resin color and then do some painting down the road for yourself, and customize it even more. I recommend the gray for that perspective, just because it's a little bit easier with taking on the paint. But you can use the white or the black also.
Okay.
Yep.
Now, you're showing me these earlier when we were kind of in the back room here, the alternate foot pegs for those figures that don't have foot pegs, but there's something different about yours. Yours is going, instead of going over the toe, you're going over the heel.
Yeah. So I try to go over the heel with it, as it allows a little bit different flexibility, and because I don't like the way they look. These were not in my original design, the model here, and that image is actually a little bit outdated. It's a little cleaner and more smooth without the different layering there. This is a little bit older of a prototype that I created for that one. They contain magnets also, the same way
Okay.
the rest of the foot pegs do. What this does is it allows those that don't have peg holes, or someone who's concerned about a peg hole possibly snapping off in a foot, right? This allows you to slide the foot in, and you can use it. And typically you can get away with just using one of these because they're a little bit more durable. I am focusing on only delivering these in a translucent color. And the reason for that is because I hate the way it looks when it looks like someone's boot is strapped to the peg or strapped to the base. So
Okay.
I'm trying to mitigate the visual on my own and providing them as a translucent color to customers.
Okay. Now here's another one that's from that I'm curious about, your flight stands.
Yep,
Now, is this a mock-up? Or are we going to get something with the spring in it, or are we going to get the?
So it's not going to have a spring. It is going to have a clasp. So I wouldn't say it's a spring action or anything because there's no springs in it. And actually, this model is a little outdated too. I've done some adjustments to the pegs, and sorry for not providing all of those updated visuals. But
That's all right.
I've been bouncing around between production and these calls. I haven't had a chance to update some of the slides. But yeah, there's a couple pieces that aren't here anymore as I've slimmed it down a little bit. But
Okay.
these have the clasp there, so you can wrap them around a thigh, or you could wrap them around a waist. You could probably wrap them around an arm if it's General Thane, and you wanted to use that just to hold him up or something. You're probably not flying him, but I use this as an example mainly with like the X-Men. And I use that 90s X-Men. You could put like a Rogue or a Storm on this, and one of the pieces here is that the base will be it'll use the foot peg, right? So the base actually goes into the foot peg hole and uses the magnet there so that you can, prop it up and have it hanging over the stand there too.
Bud has a question about, are there going to be screw base joints so they can be tightened?
Yes. Yes, they're little tiny screws, and that's a great question. So you have the ability to unscrew them, and then you have the ability to, if you had like, let's say you bought 2 flight stands and you wanted one that was a little bit taller and you wanted to take maybe like the smaller portion of it and extend the unit, you have that ability, right? So there's going to at some point be some weight distribution concerns there just because it's only so strong, but it'll definitely allow you to bend it and model it in a way that gives you flexibility.
So we've talked before about the starter kit. Now is this still what you're going to go with for the Kickstarter?
Yeah, so it is $30 for the Kickstarter. I will announce now, as the Kickstarter is officially kicking off, I got my approval on today, this afternoon, and I announced that on Instagram. The starter kit prototypes will be $30. I'm sorry, not prototypes. The starter kits will be $30, and it contains those 6 stands that you get with the 12-foot pegs. The difference is I am offering an early backer discount for a limited number. I think it's the first 30 packs of the starter kit will be $25. So, to me, it's like, I want to get it out there. I want to get this into folks' hands. So, I'm making it as cheap as humanly possible with everything I'm throwing in there, for those first folks that get out there and really help back it and get it going. And my goal here, and I've told people this on other calls and shows, that this isn't me trying to build an enterprise that I can get rich and retire on by any sense of the mean. It's my way of trying to help and contribute to a community that has been so well accepting of me and, allowed me to kind of come out of the closet on my wrestling figures and my action figures and just enjoy that stuff. But, also allow me to stand up a sustainable business model that allows me to continue to grow the accessory line, as I refer to it, for us to continue to move forward. And the biggest thing for me, sorry, go ahead.
Do you think that these would work with something like, say, a Mondo, He-Man 1/6 scale?
So He-Man Mondo, can I look it up real quick?
Yeah, they're 1/6 scale figures, so they're 12-inch.
Oh, they're the 12-inch. Okay, so those are the larger ones.
Yeah, they're larger ones, but I mean, honestly, some of those mega figs from McFarlane would be. You'd have to use two, wouldn't you?
Yeah, well, so
Yeah.
I was getting ready to go there, right? So I don't know that a singular stand would work for them. I haven't played with them. The target has been that 6-inch scale, the 112 scale. So it doesn't have foot peg holes, so it
But
would have to use one of the slide-ins. I
yeah,
don't know that the slide-in would support that, but this is the key I want everyone to understand is that the foot pegs are removable. I'm doing this all in-house to start to just really build this up.
yeah,
And I'll explain some of my process of what comes next after the Kickstarter so folks can understand. But one of the things that folks will know that if you've been following me since even the Helidopes call, I never intended on doing a, pegless, slide in foot thing. But because of the mention during that Helidope call, I, started proof of concepting what I could do alternatively. Um, the benefit that the Hexastack offers is that the removable pegs. So in the future, if there's enough consumer need and desire, we can go ahead and design that so it fits into that hole, and you would have one of those to use on a larger 112 scale figure. You may get to a point where you need to use two bases, one foot on one on the other, but you could still leverage the Hexastack modularity to fulfill your need there.
okay.
Yeah. And one of the things I was covering before was that like the price point and what I'm doing there is I'm trying to give back as cheap as I can to the consumer, to make sure folks aren't overpaying for it. So I'm really trying to keep my margins very, very slim for folks and deliver the product in a way that is superior to what's out there, because there's other things out there and they may work for you, but I will say that the idea that Hexastack is not just a stand. It's an entire system, and in leveraging the benefits of the.
Like 1 minute, I gotta go deal with something, so I'll be
Oh
right
yeah,
back. So go
yeah,
for
brother.
a while.
Okay, cool. So the thing is, with the price here, my goal is to make it cheaper for everyone. I am in talks. Right now it is going to be in-house done. That allows me the flexibility to be able to make the different textures and texture ones. It also allows me the flexibility to make many different foot peg holes, for different lines for consumers. I've heard some interest in, 3 3/4 inch, GI Joe figures, things like that. So because of that, I want to try to provide those options to consumers. I am in talks with a factory, and my goal with the Kickstarter is to cover the cost of delivering, the initial offering of all of these, initial pieces that we're offering through the Kickstarter, but then take all of that, any revenue that we gain off of that and turn that into the ability to create molds with a factory to then have these produced at a much larger volume to then again lower the price. One of the things that I commend is when like Bobby Valla came out on his product line, and he didn't raise his prices, he lowered them. He could have easily kept them the same and continued to increase his profit margins, but instead he brought that down to bring more product to consumers and get more people buying. So he was focused on getting the consumer what they needed at a better price, and that's the same methodology I want to approach. So successful Kickstarter is going to lead to having those molds be able to be created. And like I said, I literally hung up with someone last night at 9:55 p.m. And jumped on a call with Lawrence last night to talk about things. And my focus was the factory and what I can do long term with that, and some really good things coming out of that. And as I told folks from day one, is I don't plan to design something that is Kickstarter ready through my in-house production, and then go try to sell you guys on something that's version 2. Whatever I design within this first scope of the project is going to be, the Kickstarter is going to be interchangeable with what comes in, any factory build down the road, assuming that the entire product is successful, which I expect it to be. There's been a lot of pouring of success and recommendations there.
Had a small thing I had to go take care of.
You're good, brother. I can talk to a wall by myself, so I think I was cool. Hopefully.
Well, I think they were riveted, but it happens sometimes.
Yeah, no issues, no issues.
Doing it live. That's what happens when you do it live.
Understood.
Don't expect.
Understood.
So, what about toys makes them something that you want to collect that's a desirable hobby for you? What is it about toys that you woke up and you said, this is what I want to do? This is what I want to do for fun.
So I think it comes from, I joked last night and I say this, like, I'm a great artist up here, but like somewhere between here and my fingertips, it just looks like crap. So I can't do art, right? Like it just doesn't come to me. But like I would love to tell stories and I would love to, put something out there. So the ability to have these toys and tell these stories, even if it's just to myself, and being able to play out what, I would be seeing in my mind gives me that outlet and opportunity to do it. So, the different lines that are out there and that creativity that it, presents someone who is artistically deficient from head to hand, it allows me to, kind of express that, even if it's just independently within my own space. And obviously with the larger community that's out there in action figure photography, I think there's a lot of people that are very similar to me in that sense that, they have these ideas, these amazing pictures in their mind that they probably could pick up a pen and pencil with and draw if something wasn't, twisted and off between here and here. Like my son and my wife, they don't have that issue. They can, whatever they see in their head, they can put on paper. I can't do that. So it presents that opportunity. And I think, like I said, the photography community that gets into the action figures and does that, I think they see it. I think they, some of those folks are probably like me in that sense.
So with it being a hobby, it's something that we do in our spare time, are there any rules that you make for your collection? Are there any things that says, this is the line that I'm not crossing? Because you had it with what you played with. So you had that line when you were playing with toys. What's the thing that Travis goes, yeah, no, not happening? What's your collection rules? Do you got any?
I used to have so many. I only collect wrestlers. That was my rule. I only collect wrestlers. And then there was some Marvel Legends I thought that looked cool. And then like, Red Skull came out with some of the earlier Marvel Legend Hasbros and stuff. And from like the Civil War movie, like time frame and the, original the first Avenger movie and stuff. So there was that stuff that came out. And then, that happened. And then I was like, okay, I can contain myself. I'll be the wrestling guy. My son will be the Marvel guy. And then my little dude started collecting. He was the Power Ranger Lightning guy. And I was like, okay, that's fine. And then he's like, oh, I want the Star Wars stuff. And then G.I. Joe. And yeah, I don't have any freaking rules, dude. I'm a mess. I used to have standards. Now I don't. I will say that I guess the new standard is that I'm much more inclined. I used to have rules. Like I said, I stuck to the wrestling. Then the rule was if I couldn't find it in the store, then I wasn't going to get it. It was kind of like you had to be able to hunt. My kids, I used to joke is like, my family that my mom was raised by, they grew up in like the woods and, they all hunted as kids. They were raised as hunters when they were kids. I didn't do that. I grew up in a city. I barely touched a gun until I was like, in my 20s. In that sense, I took my boys out hunting, but our hunting was in Target and Walmart, and we were hunting for toys. So if I couldn't fig hunt, I didn't get them. But again, rules got right out the window. And then my dealers like Hella Dope broke that, and pre-sales became a thing, and like everything went right out the window. Yeah. So now there's no boundaries.
Well, I think with anything, and including even something that's leisure activity, we kind of have to have those outer limits and boundaries. I don't see you having any in Mythic Legions. I don't see you having any.
I have two. I got them because I wanted to see what kind of pegs they had.
Okay, but again, it's understandable. It's like popcorn and Lay's. When you start eating it,
their horses are awesome.
I have the whole bag is gone, and you're wondering what happened.
Yeah, there's no boundaries because then I saw the horses on Hella Dope and I bought one. And because my youngest son loves horses. So I was like, oh, he'll love that. He'll use the, AWOCs on that. And I got one of them and those are really cool. Like they have their horses are really good. And then I just found out that I ordered another horse from Hella Dope a couple days ago when I was checking on something and Ted was like, oh yeah, we're just waiting on your horse. I'm like, oh, friggin' A. I was like, I forgot I ordered that. So, there's like there was like that white horse.
Organization prevents that sometimes.
Yeah. So no, I tried to keep a spreadsheet. I try to keep a spreadsheet and all that stuff. I even downloaded the shop app so I get alerts on all my orders and stuff that I have out there. And it's out the window, dude. It's
no,
done.
I have to put it somewhere, because if not, I would just, because sometimes I'll pay for things like when I first order it rather than pay for it when it comes out.
Yep.
So
that's how I prefer to be. It's easier.
It's
like Christmas.
I'm just like, oh, okay.
Exactly.
I don't remember that, but okay.
I
that's
hate
why I have
Hasbro.
a spreadsheet to kind of know what's coming out each month, so I kind of know what's coming in, because I won't be like, I don't remember ordering that. I'll forget.
That's why I hate Hasbro Pulse, because like they don't charge you up front.
Yeah.
That's why I love Helidope. I love Helidope because they offer it both ways, right? Like you can put that deposit, you can put a deposit down, or you can pay up front. Me, I love to just pay up front because I know what I have when I have it, and then it's just like when it comes in, it's like freaking Christmas. Like Santa Claus showed up and it's already taken care of.
And that's the best thing. I mean, I'm PayPal and 4 is my friend.
Oh yeah, yep.
Pay every 2 weeks, no interest, might as well.
Yeah.
It gets me in trouble too sometimes. Like, oh.
Yep.
Because they have a monthly budget. Yep. And this monthly budget is right there.
I stopped.
And if I go over that monthly budget, I'm going to shoot myself sometimes, because it's just like shoot myself in the foot. Hey, no.
It's so
bad.
I
haven't been going to stores to avoid.
Oh, yeah.
This stuff.
Yep.
When the clearance happens. You have no idea. Today when I went, there was so much clearance.
I'm waiting for the Guardians to hit like 50 to 75 off.
In my area.
They were on they were on 25% off like a week or so ago at mine, so I'm hoping to hit up tomorrow.
I'm surprised that they'll be hitting that 50% soon, but man, it was ridiculous how much stuff. There was a pig head, a Masterverse pig head for $10.
Oh, okay, really?
They had like 5 or 6 of the big Beastman ones.
Oh, dude, I got that for like $7.
I've already got 3, so I don't really need another one.
I got one. It was like $7. I don't think I've spent in total. I don't think I spent more than $25 on.
I was hoping they had the Gamorrean guards, because the Gamorrean guards were $16, and I would have bought one for my son, because he loves. He's always had this thing for. He liked pig toys. My old boy. So I got him a Gamorrean guard, the other version, not the most recent one. I think he would enjoy it, but yeah, it's one of those things. It's interesting to see when we pass some certain things down to our kids, where they get that thing. Now he doesn't actively go out and hunt. He doesn't do. No. I don't frequently hunt. I very rarely get a chance to go. Yeah, I get about an hour a week to myself, having to do something else. Right. So, and this is pretty much the only other time that I have. So
understood.
So obviously you are not an inbox collector.
I have a couple that are inbox.
Okay.
So
what qualifies for Travis's inbox collection?
I bought you. I have to meet you. So I have a Matt Cardona figure, the same Super 7 one that I got with my son when we met him. I bought one that I was opening for my shelf, and then I got one that was autographed for him. So it's got his autograph and my son's name on it, to chase. And then we have L something, one of the luchadors that was here locally, and I bought his figure, and it's in a box for my son, and it's got one of the protectors on it. But again, to stay in box, it's because I have one of you to play with, and I have one that I met you and you signed and autographed it. So, those are the ones to stay in box.
Special for Travis to keep it in box. It has to be special.
Exactly. Yep.
Some of those things we do. I mean, I have both. Yeah. And that's people look at it weirdly when I have both, because I have walls of toys. Yeah. And we'll see that in the outro later, but you'll see my walls of toys. Okay. There's something about walking into that room and seeing those toys up on the wall.
You get the artwork too, right? You get all the box artwork and stuff.
It reminds me, it takes me back to that little kid where I was in that Toys R Us aisle or in that KB Toys, and it's just packed down
That's kind of cool.
The room. I mean, it's very visual for me.
What you got to do, now you got me thinking. You got to just go buy, like, when a business goes out of business, you got to go buy like their racking and the pegs, and you just got to buy figs and keep them in the box, put on the pegs. So when you walk in the room, it's like going back to
Yeah, you can
Toys
do
R Us
that.
when you're a kid.
Yeah, I mean
That would be cool.
it's easy. I mean that's
Yeah.
how the guy who does 3D Joe's Carson Metaxas,
Okay.
his GI Joe setup. He
It's
has
like that.
carded figures that are on like literally on a shelf display that he got from like a Toys R Us or something.
Oh, that's awesome. That's cool.
Awesome stuff. Um, so, is there anything that you have with your current toys that you'd like to do but you don't?
Yes. I want to do action figure photography. I have an entire story written for it. Like, I want to make, like, I don't even know if it's allowed. Like, I've tried to look online and I think I can get away with it. Like, and it's not like something you get in trouble for, but I want to do like a graphic novel type thing of a story that I want to tell with the figures that I have, some of them. Like,
I
and
don't think
then
it
like,
would be. I don't. You got people like Action and Teflon. They're doing that.
yeah, like they do it, like they do it on Instagram. It's so funny
Maybe
because
a
that's
few
how,
pictures at a time, but it's telling a
yeah.
story over time.
Yeah. And
So
that's
yeah,
actually one of the
I
ways
think for sure.
Axion and I got connected, was because he was doing stuff and I was doing stuff, and I was working on some diorama stuff for it and asking him some questions, and he and I were talking, and like I was like, yeah, I want to do this thing, and he was like, wow, he's like, yeah, I've got kind of like the same idea with some of the stuff that I want to do, and like realized that, like, I won't say the stories I want to tell are the same, but it definitely seemed like it was kind of in that genre. But
Mhm.
yeah, I would say that's something I'd want to do when I have free time. I just don't. I thought I was going to have it and I was going to start having the time, and then Hexastack hit me in
And
the
then you
face, and
get
I was
bit.
like, exactly. And like that hit me in the face, and I was like, well, that Proxon thing back there between my two 3D printers, so back
Yeah,
there, that was a gift for Christmas that I started using, and I finally got to using it, and I was like, crap. So
yeah. We get sidetracked sometimes. Life
yeah.
is what happens when you're busy making other plans.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
That's when
it's
he
always
says, hold my cup.
yeah, exactly. You mentioned kind of about the lore of whatever it is, the IP that you're interested in, and it dictating kind of your interest in it. What happens when that lore changes or ignores existing continuity, retcons, going in a direction that you no longer enjoy? Does that affect your interest in the toys?
So not in the toys. Not in the toys. I think it's more in like media and movies and stuff. I'm a wrestling fan, and as a pro wrestling fan, you have to have a blank slate, because every week it can completely change. And the fact that Kane tried to kill his brother and his parents and the Undertaker and all that stuff, and then minutes later there it's a whole different story. You have to have a ability to etch a sketch your mind, as a pro wrestling fan. So
Take that phrase. That just gets your mind. We might be using that one frequently.
I mean, you have to, right? Like, as a pro wrestling fan, you just had to. So that said, I don't have a problem with my action figures and stuff and the toys that I collect. I will say, as someone who's a fan of the MCU, so like I'm a comic book nerd. I told you I had my dad's comics from the 60s and
Yeah.
70s. So I love that stuff. Like, my favorite character is Winter Soldier, with Star-Lord being like a very close second. So for me, it's like, they did so good for so long, and then it seems like some stuff is kind of dragged off, and then there's all sorts of, politics, and some people are this and some people are upset about that. And I've decided that I live one life. Whether I agree with the direction that they're going, it's the only way I'm going to get it.
Yeah.
And you could argue, well, if you support it, they're gonna change everything. They're gonna turn everyone into a different gender or this and that. And I just don't let that bother me. I'm just like, I'm gonna enjoy what I can get my hands on,
Yeah.
and I just try to enjoy it. Whatever comes, it's what I'm getting.
I think
Some
that
people didn't. Some people didn't like the
missing
original
from a lot of
Fantastic
people
Four
is
movies back in the early
just simple
2000s.
enjoyment of just for what it is.
Yep, exactly. I unplug and I just try to enjoy it for what it is.
I mean, could you imagine? Could you imagine going back as a kid and saying, "Hey, I'm going to get all of this stuff, all of these movies, all of these TV
Right.
series, all of this stuff on IPs that I care about,
Yeah. That's insane. Like the fact that
I
you
mean,
get that, like
it's a
that's
glut.
awesome.
It's
Oh
it's a
yeah.
glut.
It's like,
And
you
I
know,
think we kind of gotten spoiled.
that's it.
But
And
I
I mean,
kind of
there's
talked about it
burnout.
with previous guests, kind of that entitlement of the IP. Like, because it was something that was important to me, I'm entitled to this and that. No,
Yeah. No,
it's an IP. It's not. We as fans are given information, and yeah, it's not always going to match what we wish it would be.
exactly.
There's no perfect movie. There's no perfect comic. There's no perfect. Everything changes because it changes as a function of people changing.
Yeah, society changes. We evolve. We devolve. We do things, right? Like it happens, and and whatnot. So I just try to enjoy it for what it is as
But
best
the
as I
really
can.
reality is if you don't like it,
Turn it off.
don't turn off.
Yeah.
Don't buy it.
Yeah.
If you don't
Yep.
like paying $25 for a figure, don't buy the
Yeah.
figure.
Yeah. That's the way I like. Let
No
your
one's
wallet speak with
slapping
it if that's what you want to do.
a gun to your head and saying you better buy this figure or the world will end.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
I
No.
don't understand that just general apathy where that just comes on to just complain about everything and the world is shitty and the end of the world is the apocalypse. What? No.
Yeah. No. No.
It's
I mean, like,
just stuff.
I don't want to drink that Kool-Aid and just be
Yeah,
negative.
I
I
mean,
try to look at things half full.
I got enough shit for real in my life. I don't need fake shit that's made up shit.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
Uh, no, Lawrence, Rad is not a perfect movie.
Um,
Really?
he's
Really?
wrong. I don't know Rad, to be honest, and maybe I'm should know what it is, but I don't. But have you guys not seen The Marine, created by WWE Studios? I mean, those are some great. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. No, don't hold me to that one.
Yeah, relatively there. So
Yeah.
so it really doesn't. If the lore changes and you would rather evolve with it, or just if it's not something that you feel strongly about one way
Yeah.
or the other. So that's a good
Yeah,
thing.
like the GI
But
Joe movies.
I think that cognitive flexibility is what a lot of people, they're so rigid in their thinking. And I think a lot of people just can't get past that rigidity.
Yep.
And it's, that's not a good thing.
Yeah, and a couple pieces real quick to touch on that, right? Like with the whole thing with the different movies and things like that. Like if you don't like it, you can turn it off. I get it. Like you can speak as a consumer. I agree with that. My thing is try to enjoy things the best as you can because you only live this one life, so try to and then I think some of it's perspective too, right? Like I see Matthew talks about the Raiders of the Lost Ark, and I know that there's the new one that came out. I wasn't a huge indie fan. I think I watched the TV show more than I ever did the movies because my dad was into it. But like I started wondering myself is like, do we not like the new Star Wars and the prequels and the sequels and stuff? Do we not like that stuff because we got like a really good sampling of something at one time, and then like maybe that other stuff's good, but it's all perspective of where we stood at the time. And I'm not saying they are or they aren't because I'm not a Star Wars guy, but I'm just like enjoy it for what it is. If it's not your thing, it's not your thing, right? Like you don't own it. It's maybe the problem is those 3 movies that you watched that came out at that one point in time when technology was this and the story was this and it met you here and it met you at the place where that smell and that music bring a certain taste to your mouth. Like
Yeah.
like you had all of that stuff and it presented a perfect scenario for you. Well, like those other 3 movies that just came out over the last 10 years, they give that to some other kid. Just take it for what it's worth and enjoy it as best as you can. And if you can't, so be it. Like just you still have the original 3. Like I also get giving I don't want to say criticism, because if we just accept like criticism to a degree is beneficial, right? Because
Yeah,
it allows
there's
for
something wrong
advancement.
with being genuinely, authentically critical about something, not because you're looking at it through rose-colored glasses, but because you're looking at it as this is not something. But what you're doing is when you're doing that critique, you're giving an opinion.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I don't have an issue with people giving an opinion.
Yep.
It's just when they try to force that opinion down on me, then we
react. And that's either side of the line, right? So like I totally get you there. Yep. Like
that's where I kind of draw the line.
Yeah, I just watched that new Transformers movie and I actually really enjoyed it for what it was. Like it was cool to me because what it was. Yeah, I'm not a Transformer guy.
Some of them that are good. It is what it is. I go into anything like that. I'm going to go into it because it's brain drain for 2 hours.
Yeah.
And
Just
I'm good
eat
with
my
that.
popcorn and enjoy it.
That's all I'm there for, is to just, I'm gonna get out of my brain. I don't care that, the Maximals and the Autobots never met and there's nothing that, I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't need that in the back of my head.
Yep.
All I want to do is enjoy myself.
That's it, man. Just enjoy it. Unplug.
For what all we can do, unplug for the little bit. Yes.
Yep.
We need to do that more often. I think we forget that's why play is such an essential thing. Even for adults, people forget that play is essential for kids because it allows them for social development. It helps them become who they will be eventually. It's one of those critical factors for kids. But as adults, it helps us manage stress, have better and healthier relationships with people.
Yep.
Playful people live longer.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? These are real facts.
You live longer if you're happy, right? And you find ways to release that stress. So
you gotta take the stick out your ass sometimes.
Enjoy life, man, for sure.
So you kind of talked about your figures that you want with modern design aesthetics. So you want like Toxic Avengers, and
I would. It's be cheesy, but it would be cool. Like honestly, like if I was to say who should do it, like just in real quick, I think what would be a cool place to do it would be those NECA ones, like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, because I always kind of put the Toxic Avengers and that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle line back in the early 90s kind of in that same bucket of like figures, because they all kind of were that colorful and like that whole together, in that space. So I feel like with what NECA did with those boxes I saw at Target all the time, like if they would pop Toxic Avengers out, I'd buy that stuff up in a heartbeat. It'd be right on my shelf on some Hexa-Stack and
get you a Toxic.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, technically you have a Muckman, and the Muckman might be close to the there's some similarities there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So when you go about getting a figure, or you want to try a new line, or you want to see something different, what is it about the figure that draws you to it?
I mean, I guess it's the artistic approach to it, right? Like how did the designer, come to, that picture? Like how did they bring it in, and does it present itself? Is it, does it, the shading, does it have like the right accessories? Does it look cool? Like does it look cool on a shelf? Because if it looks cool in a box on a shelf, it's gonna look hella dope on my stand. And I just used hella dope because I watch those guys every week. But yeah, so like it's kind of that, like if it's not something I see in the store, if I see a good review on it, like I was a Mortal Kombat kid, but I did play Street Fighter. I didn't follow any of the Street Fighter lore and stuff, but I did watch, like, I think Jean-Claude Van Damme's movie or whatever back in the 90s. That was like the best movie ever, probably just slightly better than Rad. When I saw those come out, I thought they looked really cool. And I'm not a huge Street Fighter guy, but I'm like, Jada's doing some cool stuff. They look good. So I was like, I'm going to grab this stuff. And I'm going to hope Jada or someone like Jada gets the Mortal Kombat ones and does, half as good as those look. And then I can have my Mortal Kombat kick the crap out of those Street Fighter fools. But, if it looks cool and I like it, I'm going to grab it.
Okay. So are there any figures out there that you're missing that you would want? Anything that, you kind of talked about Pirates of the Dark Water becoming you want them to get kind of reinvigorated.
Yeah.
Anything else like that you would want?
I'm trying to think from when I was a kid, man. So this might be cheesy. When I was a kid, I remember watching, TGIF as a kid on Friday nights with my dad and my brother and sister and stuff. And my mom would always leave for the night, have her night out, and we'd get McDonald's or pizza. A lot of times we get McDonald's, get the Happy Meals and stuff. And like when I was younger, they had those cheesy, like the Hamburglar and like the the characters that were like you know, like the Happy Meal converted and stuff. So like,
oh yeah, the Transformer foods.
yeah, and I hated Transformers. I still hate Transformers. Like the actual toys, like I hate them because I have to YouTube how to convert them every time. And my 12-year-old loves Transformers, and he will not transform them. I have to change them.
I got something for you. Now, I just got this guy. Okay, it goes to this guy. Now, mind you, it's a tail.
Okay.
What does that look like?
It doesn't look all
like
that good.
You the bird?
Yeah, yeah.
Actually, the hand for Volcanus.
Oh man,
it looks like he's flipping the bird.
Oh yeah,
I was like, great. Oh wow.
Yeah. See, I'm not a.
I was like, oh, okay.
I can't get the Transformers, man. Like they drive me nuts because
I only get core class because they don't take up space.
Yeah,
they're tiny.
I just can't do it. I hate it. I hate having to. I'll sit here and switch a backpack out, and
there's only like 9 steps to do it, so it's not terribly bad. It's not complicated. So.
I'll have to keep that in mind when my son's asking for some because I'm grabbing the piece of paper and I'm like, this doesn't work. And then I'm like breaking it and re-gluing it back together and be like, now it's that permanently.
Yeah, it's so, they're $10 and they're or $10 or $12 depending on where you get them. But yeah, now
yeah,
I think are there any times that there's times when we buy stuff and we kind of have this buyer's remorse or regret where we pick something up that we just later go, why did I do that? Do you ever get those kind of moments where you're just like, I don't know why I bought you? I mean, I get that when I go out and look at my garage for my clearance pile of stuff that will be customs.
Yeah.
It's growing. It's not shrinking.
I don't know that I have a lot of buyer's remorse. I have a bunch of so I keep telling people I don't own any McFarlane, and I just realized I've been lying to you guys all this time. I do. I have like 4 Bat Cycles that are still in box, and I lied to you. I keep things in box. They're on my shelf, and I haven't gotten around to opening them ever because I thought they'd look really cool with the Scarabs.
That doesn't necessarily qualify as still in box collection. That disqualifies as I forgot that I had them and I haven't taken them out of the box yet because I have intentions for them to be somewhere else. Because that's pretty much what my garage pile of custom figures are all still in boxes.
Yeah, I think I kind of like I've been on the fence about just listing them because I got them so cheap at one point. I'm thinking if like I could just like put them back online and get my monies back on them, I'd call it a day. But like I have like 4 of the Bat Cycles, the cool looking ones that I saw a bunch of people do customs for like the Valaverse. I think people were like using them for like the Scarabs and I think I saw some people doing them for like troop builders with the Joes and the Cobra troopers and stuff, like painting them blue and stuff. So I've got a few of those that are like the armor ones. I saw some cool customs done on those and I was like, oh, I can do that. No, I can't. So, I have those and I just haven't gotten around to it. Those are probably like maybe my one regret. I don't really often regret figures, and things that I buy. I don't know.
So I talk with everyone about this, what I call the magic question. And I think as collectors, we all kind of have this thing where this is what would happen if we didn't have to worry about space or money, because those are the 2 biggest things. So
there should be a third one though. If you have a wife, if you I won't even say wife. If you have a partner, who's someone that doesn't like your hobby, that could be the 3rd biggest crutch. But luckily, I don't have that issue.
It could, but generally, I think we find the people that support us for what we like.
Yeah.
If the relationship's going to last, but
we
could add that, but I don't think it's necessary. More of if you had your way.
Yes.
Thinking. If all things being equal, and you were able to do this, space, money weren't an issue, what would you collect and why?
Oh. So I've got a collection of things. So there's 2 things I would call.
It doesn't have to be toys. It can be
No, it's not toys. It's not toys. It's wrestling related. Surprise, right?
Right.
So
wait, hang on.
Exactly.
There you go.
I have this, which is my least favorite championship belt from wrestling. I think you normally see like one of these in the background of Aaron's, show. And then I also collect these. Like
Oh,
I'm not
okay.
I'm not a Panthers fan. I'm a Giants fan, but I
Someone
like
just bought
these.
you a Panthers helmet just for the
Well, it's
giggles.
not just that.
Oh,
They
okay.
they're like I have those and I have so there's quite a bit here.
So sports memorabilia kind of thing.
Yeah, so like the helmets, I really like them. They look cool to me. So I've got a bunch of those in my office, and my sons have some too. They have their favorite teams in their rooms and stuff. So that would be something. But then also something I came across. I was lucky. I found it at a garage sale, and I would totally collect these. And there's no reason any rational human being would collect them. Besides the wrestling belts, right? Like that kind of falls in the same bucket because there's nothing you're going to do with it. I'm not the guy that shows up to the wrestling shows with my kids with my belt trying to defend it in a parking lot because I would win. And that's just how it would be. But I have wrestling chairs. So like when they have the big pay-per-view events, a lot of times they have like these special art, like it's almost like the poster like that you would hang up for like a concert or something, but it's the chair and it typically has the event and it has the dates and stuff. And, it's got the different main event person, like some sort of display on it. And that's on the seat. And they're just steel chairs with like padding on the front, on the seat and on the back. And I came across them at a garage sale years ago for like $5 a piece. So I snagged like 2 of them. No reason to have them. They're actually sitting right next to my 3D printing factory downstairs, just folded up against the wall next to all of my other wrestling stuff. But if I had this space, I would collect those like a ton because they're cool. But yeah,
I think we all have those little things that we would gravitate toward. For me, I don't know. I mean, I said last week that I would probably go back and get Vintage Joe just for the play sets and the vehicles because there was something really magical about that whole universe. But
yeah, oh yeah,
I don't know that I would stop there. I mean,
yeah.
I can imagine rooms where like I would have a room for Joe, and then I would have a room for Star Wars, and then I would have a room for Thundercats, and then you see how that snowballs, and then it becomes a problem because now I have a room for every vintage line, and then I'm in trouble.
Yep.
And see, Adam's got the right idea. He just go back to spoons. I will go back to spoons.
I still think he needs that shirt that says "Spoon me, please."
Yeah, we still got to get a vintage. We got to get a shirt that has it like in big letters.
Hashtag spoon me, please.
Yeah, we definitely got to do that. I mean, there's sometimes when I'm hoping somebody will keep pulling in more unique things like you just talked about, those things that are just different.
Yeah,
I like things that are different in a collection. It doesn't have to be toys. And
my wife hates those chairs, by the way.
Toy therapy, but it's not just about that. It's the things that bring us happiness and joy. So
yeah, those chairs are cool. My wife hates them. Whenever we have like large parties at the house, because I've got siblings and we're the only ones with kids. We always host the gatherings at our house and stuff. And when I want to, get extra chairs, I'm like, oh, I'll go grab the wrestling. No, you're not. You're not grabbing those things.
She's like, no,
me,
no.
And then me, I'm on Facebook all the time, like Facebook Marketplace, and I'm like, oh, wrestling chairs. Like, there's no rational reason for it because I literally never use them. But I'm like, oh, someday it would be really cool to like hang them on the wall and just have a ton of them in whatever that, wrestling arena room that I have and, would be. But it's no rational reason to have them. Way too much space, uncomfortable, for I'm sure more than the 3-hour pay-per-view you're at. So, but they're cool.
I can only imagine because if they're just intended just to be for one night, they're probably not super comfortable to sit in.
No. And my wife won't let me bring them out for Thanksgiving dinner. And I'm like, come on, be supportive.
You just need to find one you get one of those big wooden tables, like, get one that's dented. So like it's been, somebody got thrown through it.
Oh yeah.
Then you just put the chairs with the table and you got a perfect You got
I'll do it. Let
diorama there.
My idea was that when we, finished the basement, I would set it up with like a projector. And, when I had my WrestleMania day, and I had my buddies and my kids, we were all watching WrestleMania, I'd have all these uncomfortable pay-per-view chairs that we would all sit in down there. And, we'd be able to hang out, watch it in the chairs that were from all the events that I was able to gather them from. So,
yeah.
And
now it's
the
2
thing
days, so.
yeah. And the thing, oh yeah, that would be horrible. And the thing is, like, those things, it's a surprising. Like, I know buddies that have gone to pay-per-views and they're like, I ran out of there with 4 of those chairs because the guy didn't want them. He was going to leave them behind. So I threw him $50 and I got 4 chairs. And I'm like, I just want one of all the different events. That would be so cool.
Yeah. So one of the things that we kind of, you kind of talked about, you met girls and you stopped collecting for a little while. Then you came back to collecting. Do you ever kind of experience burnout where like there's just a day like, you know what, I'm kind of done for a while?
Yeah. I actually had that. I want to say like 2019. I kind of like slowed down like towards the middle to end of 2019. And then as COVID picked up, I was really kind of like, because at the time I was really only collecting the wrestlers. And I was just kind of easing off of it because there was a lot of redundant characters and things like that. And there's nothing that I was like, oh, I need that one or this one. So I definitely slowed down a bit and kind of eased off of it. And my, my kids still got their stuff, but I was really kind of easing off my collection of things. And that's right about the time that I started unloading all my duplicates, and trying to consolidate to a smaller, footprint of figures. But then G.I. Joe's hit me right in the face.
Footprint of figures your idea or the wife's?
No, it was mine. It was mine. It was absolutely, yeah, it was. I'm sure she said things, but it was definitely mine.
I told my wife I was going to get another shelving unit like I just got, and it was going in the bedroom, in our bedroom.
Oh, nice.
Like the other one did. And she goes, your toys are taking over 2 rooms now.
Oh, man.
And then they're taking over the living room because that's where I have all of my box stuff.
Yeah.
Open it. It's in the living room. Actually, some of it is currently on top of my 3D printer right next to me. So I just keep getting these piles, and I literally have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18.
That's a lot. That's a lot sitting around. I don't leave things in boxes that long.
And so if I'm not on a show, I'm not really opening it. And I don't know if that's just me being weird about it, or if I don't want to open it by myself because I want to share it with people.
Yeah. So
it's weird in that way. It's not that I'm reviewing it.
Yep.
It's just I want to show people this is cool.
So
I mean, this is the one that I've opened, and I thought it was pretty cool. But
yeah,
the character that I don't remember being in the Dinobots.
I don't know. I remember the one cartoon for the Transformers, the Beast Wars. So that's like the closest I come to Transformers, I think, is Beast Wars. Like that was.
It's weird. It's weird that I'm that way about it now, but I have opened a few here and there. But generally, like I got a Nightmare Spawn.
Okay.
That I'm going to use to. I cut him. He's already been chopped up, but he's going to be Serpentor from Arise, Serpentor, Arise.
Okay.
The failed copy.
Okay.
The first one, the monster one, and I've got a whole diorama set with my Mindbender that I'm going to use for that.
Okay.
It's going to be actually the display shelf is going to be that laboratory.
Oh, cool. Are you 3D printing a lot of that?
So it's one of those things I'm going to be doing some sculpting on that body just to make it work, but
that's awesome.
Too bad.
I don't have that in me.
You know what? I didn't think I did either, and then I just started doing it, and I'll do it with because it was I'll do it with a $10 figure. That first, the first thing that I did was a hooded Cobra Commander.
Okay.
I used the basic buck, but I found a grifter head.
Oh, those are so good.
and they were like $6. So I was like, I bought 2 just in case I really screwed it up. And it's not bad. It's definitely not good, but it's not bad. The paint job was a little rough, and it was most of it is just me figuring out how to use the paint on the figures and doing that. Once I figure it out, it's it's usually not an issue. But it's always getting that first little thing started. Yeah, the resin head.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't paint though. I was like, oh man, I gotta paint. So I've got a whole bag of heads here that I just never got around to painting, like Rambo and a bunch of people, Red Hood, all that stuff.
Yeah, it's not as hard as it seems, especially if you get the right kind of paints and you get the right stuff. It's all in the preparation 9 times out of 10 for me. I mean, the biggest issues you're going to have if you're doing heads are the eyeballs.
That's the one I struggle with. That's what I struggle with. And I used to do.
Save your life. I will tell you on that one. Toothpicks are great for eyeballs.
What is it?
Toothpicks.
Oh, okay. Okay. I think I've seen that in some YouTube videos.
Poke it in. You're all good.
Yeah. That's good to know. I might have to do something there because I got all those heads that I got to be painted. I just haven't gotten around to it.
So, one of the last questions, I've got a couple left, and then check in with the chat again, see if there's anything hugely. I probably should have starred like 12 million comments but talking to you. So, no, it's not good. But that's all right. So, is there any time that you see yourself not collecting? What does that look like for you?
So what I would say is do me a favor. Close your eyes. Close your eyes. Okay, just follow me here. All that silence. I'm a hole in the ground. I'm 6 feet under. That's when I'm done collecting. Like you're seeing the back of your eyelids. That's when I'm done collecting.
Okay.
I don't see myself stopping. Like it's the inner child in me. It's the inner Andy, and that's a reference to Toy Story, right? So like, it's the inner Andy in me. I don't see myself ever not collecting something because I've always collected stuff, whether it had been baseball, sports cards, comic books that that was handed down from my dad, and building on that, which I've pushed onto my son. My oldest son has a massive collection of comics, and he's got his figures, and I've obviously got mine. I just don't see it changing. I love little pieces of art, or as my 15-year-old daughter likes to tell me, I love little plastic men in tighty whities, as she says, because all of them used to be wrestling figures. And I'm like, they're not wearing tighty whities. If you even looked at my collection, these things are way cooler than that. So, yes, my 15-year-old daughter heckles me in my action figures. So
you got to have one in the family that gives you shit, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You got to have that works.
Yep.
You got to have somebody that's giving you the business, keeping you honest.
She's my duplicate, though. She's everything that I am, and she gives it. Yes. But she loves to hassle me and heckle me about my little plastic men in tighty whities. So, yes.
Well, we are at the close, pretty close anyway. We have one last question, and it's kind of the big one. What did you find joy in today?
So there's a couple things. The first thing I will say is getting that notification that my Kickstarter was approved. So that was joy. That was definitely joyful for me. And then I would say having the opportunity to sit here with you, Aaron, honestly, and it's just an echoing of the community, right? And I told you in the green room before we got on here, I wanted to start my own YouTube show. Like you said, right? You've got all these boxes of figures that you haven't opened, and you got to get to reviewing them. I hate the way that boxes take up so much space. So I literally would rip them out of the box, throw everything in a Ziploc bag, cut the card off so I knew which guy it was and what it came with, keep them each individually. I've got totes of them over there because eventually I was like, oh, I'm going to review these on a YouTube channel. And then I'm like, it's too much work. I don't think I'll ever be a YouTuber in the sense I'll have my own show or anything.
This is why I do things live.
Exactly.
You'll find out when we do the outro, when we, here in a minute, you'll see why we do things live. I cannot edit for my life.
Well, your intro was cool.
You have to edit this video in order to survive.
Yeah. So So I've really enjoyed, I say I took joy in having the opportunity to have a conversation with you. It gave me an opportunity to obviously come on. And, one of the things I told folks is, I was fairly new to the community in general. I've been more of a watcher or what do they call them? A lurker, in a lot of shows in the beginning, was kind of nervous to
Bro, you
comment.
were a
And then,
stalker. You admitted to it again.
son of a gun, let's go back to start one. Yeah. So, yeah, that's a good call out there, man. Really put me on the spot there. Don't look me up, guys. I have a history. No, I'm just kidding. Uh, I was sitting in the chats and I started kind of chiming in and stuff at times. And, the community's just been really, really cool to get to know. But one of the things is, and some folks were like, hey, really, keep the Hexa stack close to your chest until you're ready to go. And yeah, that was probably the smart thing to do in that sense. But to me, I was like, you know what? There's so many people out there that are trying to do different things. What's going to differentiate, obviously, the Hexa stack as a product is that it's modular. It offers all the things I've already talked to. That says what it is. But the opportunity for me to, come out and show people who I am has been really cool because I wanted to make sure people knew who they were dealing with. And I think that's one of the things I love about these independent lines like AWalk and Valaverse and, the Savage Crucible stuff is the community is reachable. They're part of the community. So I wanted to get out there and get into it. So, coming on here, having that opportunity to share a little bit about who I am, kind of tell my story because everybody's got a story, right? Like you got a story, I have a story. We talked a little bit about the stories before we came out of the green room. I talked a little bit about my story last night with Lawrence and having that opportunity for folks to get to know who you are. We all got a story. We all are going through something, nobody else knows anything about and, how we got to where we are. And it's kind of who defines and how defines you. So having the opportunity to hear a little bit about you, your son, your family, and your habits and my habits and kind of where we differ, where we're similar has been cool. And it brought joy to me to just be able to kind of unplug for a minute and play.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to do my shameless plug, but we're doing it at the end because, join the frenzied. Come see what we're all about. Travis did. Now he knows. Now he's seeing it.
Yep.
It's something different. It's something special. So before we head out, I am going to say if you can be anything, be kind. And what did you find joy in today? And we will see you all next week.